today, guys, we have another special request on how do I change fractions into formulas. So a lot of you guys, when you think of math, you think of, but hopefully after this video, it'll be a little less daunting. Okay, so the question is, please create a formula for the following situation. You want to know how am I going to change miles per hour into feet per second.
Abracadabra, hocus pocus, let's bring this math problem into focus.
So what I want to do is I want to figure out what would be a logical order of steps, right? And so I know that I'm going 70 miles an hour, that 1 hour is going to take 60 minutes, that 1 minute is going to take 60 seconds, and that there are 5,280 feet in a mile. And so this is not in any sort of order, so I got to figure out what would be the best thing to do first. Well, I know, you know what, I'm going 60 miles an hour. That's going to be pretty important to know, number one. Well, that's great, but how's that going to help me turn into feet per second, right? And so, you know, you could say, hey, I want to convert my miles into feet. All right, and now I know how many feet per hour I'm going, right? Oh, look right here. I got my hours. I can turn those into minutes, and then I can change my minutes into seconds. So you could do that. That's totally fine. You could have said, you know what? I know how many miles an hour I want to go. Well, then I need to figure out how many miles per minute I'm going. I need to know how many miles per second I'm going, and then I need to know how many miles per hour I'm going, right? And so the beauty of this thing is you can really put your fractions in order several different ways, right? You could say, hey, look, if I know how many feet there are in a mile, and I know how many miles there are in an hour, well, I just figured out how many feet per hour I'm going, right? And so then, you know, I can figure out how many feet per minute I'm going. I can figure out how many feet per second I'm going, right? And so really that's kind of the beauty of this way, is there's many ways to skin a cat. And so that's how that works. I chose to do miles per hour, to change it to miles per minute, to change it to miles per second, to change it to feet per second, right? And so what's going to happen? Well, I'm going to arrange my fractions to make sure that they cancel right here, right? And so I'm going to put hours above and below the fraction line, minutes above and below the fraction line, right? There's no seconds for this thing to cross out with. But I'm going to have my miles above and below the fraction line so they cancel out over here. And so once again, when you multiply by fractions, you just multiply straight across right there. And that's all you're doing there. And so now what you're going to come up with is 3,600 seconds. Well, I'm not interested in 3,600 seconds. I want to know about 1 second. And so I'm going to divide both sides by 3,600, and that's going to give me my answer of 102.7 feet per second. Alright, next, you need to create a formula that changes pounds to grains.
Abracadabra, hocus pocus, let's bring this math problem into focus.
Okay, so if I'm going from pounds to grains, right, this is going to be my first thing I'm going to do, and then my grains is going to be the second thing I'm going to do. So it's going to look something like, so I'm going to put my 16 ounces all over my 1 pound. I'm going to make sure my ounces cross out right here. So I'm going to put grains up top and ounces down bottom. That way my ounces cross out. And so I just multiply across, I get 7,000 grains per 1 pound. Now you need to create a formula that's going to change pounds of food per day into acres of oat.
Abracadabra, hocus pocus, let's bring this math problem into focus.
So the thing with this math is there's more than one way to skin a cat right here. And so I could say, you know what? I think I need to know how many animals I have, so I can figure out, um, how much food they're going to eat. So now that I know how many animals I have, I need to know how much one rabbit will eat. And so if I know that, I can figure out how much food my animals are going to eat per year. If I know how much they eat per year, um, you know, I got to figure out how much seed I need to plant to produce that kind of food. And if I know how much seed I need to plant to produce that kind of food, um, you know, now I need to know how much space all that seed is going to take up, right? So you could do it that way. You could say, you know what? I think I want to know how much food one rabbit is eating, right? And then, you know what? Now that I know that, I need to know how many rabbits I have. And so that's going to tell me how much food they're eating per day. This is going to tell me how much food they're eating per year. This is going to tell me, you know, how much seed I need to plant to feed that. And then this is going to tell me how much space that's going to take up. I could do it another way right here. I could say, you know what? I need to know how much food one rabbit's going to eat over the course of a year. And then I'm going to figure out how many pounds of seed I'm going to produce. How much seed I need to use to produce that kind of food. How much space it would take up for one rabbit. And oh, look, I got 5 rabbits. So, really, as long as you follow steps that make any sort of sense, you'll be able to get the right answer. And as I said, it's very forgiving. And there are some other variants I'm sure I could do if I sat down and thought about it. So let's see what the answer is. So I decided to start off with pounds of oak crop per rabbit per day, right? And so I figured out how much food they're eating per year, right? How did I do that? I made sure my days canceled out right here. Well, that's great, but then I need to figure out how many pounds of seeds to plant, so I did that there, so my pounds of oat crop are canceling out right here. And so now I want to figure out how much space that's going to take out. And so my pounds of oat seeds are going to cancel out, and this is how much acres I need to plant per rabbit. And then what's going to happen is I have 5 rabbits on my farm, so I'm going to have rabbits above and below my fraction line, right? And so this is telling you where to set up. You're not, crap, do I put rabbits up top or down bottom? No, this tells you, hey, look, you want to put rabbits up top. Why? Because they're going to cancel, right? And so now I figured out that I need 74,825 acres for one farm for 1,575,000 years. And so that's a lot of years. I just want 1 year. And so I'm going to divide both sides by 1,575,000, right? And so I get for one farm for 1 year, that's going to take 0.0475 acres for those 5 rabbits. Next, you're going to create a formula that's going to convert milligrams per day into milliliters per day.
Abracadabra, hocus pocus, let's bring this math problem into focus.
So the more complicated the problem is, the more different ways there are doing things. The shorter the problem is, the less ways of doing things, right? You could have started with milligrams first, milligrams of Tylenol per day, and then I've converted that to milliliters, or you could have said, hey, look, I know that for every milligram that I got, this is how many milliliters I'm going to need, and then, oh, by the way, this is how many milligrams I'm taking per day, and you would have still got to the same answer. So either way works. So I just chose to start off with the milligrams, and so once again, you just got to make sure that your fractions are canceling correctly. So how on earth do I do this? Well, I need milligrams above and below my fraction line so they can cancel out. And so now just multiply across, right? And down bottom, I know I'm going to get 120, right? I'm not interested in 120 days. So I'm going to divide both sides by 120, divide the bottom and the top. And so up top, I'm going to get 1.5 milliliters over 1 day. Lastly, you're going to convert milliliters per hour to micrograms per minute.
Abracadabra, hocus pocus, let's bring this math problem into focus.
Okay, so I got my milliliters per hour, right? And so I can figure out, hey, look, this is how many milliliters I got per minute. And so now that I got this, I need to know how many milligrams I got in there. So this is going to give me milligrams per minute. And now that I get my milligrams per minute, I can convert that into micrograms, right? Or, you know what? You could have said, hey, look, this is how many milligrams I have per hour. Hey, look, I'm going to change, this is how many milligrams I'm getting per hour. I'm going to change that into micrograms. I'm going to change that into micrograms per minute. And so, many different ways to skin a cat, but I think you're getting the idea. Okay, so I decided that I'm going to start with milliliters per hour first, right here. And so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to times that by milligrams per milliliter, right? And so I'm going to put my milliliters down bottom so they cross out. So now I figured out how many milligrams this person's getting per hour. Well, I want to figure out per minute. So what I'm going to do is I got 1 hour is equal to 60 minutes, right? Why did I put minutes down bottom or hours up top? Because I want my hours to cross out, right? And so now I figured out milligrams per minute, right? And now I need to convert that to micrograms. Well, I know there's 1,000 micrograms in 1 milligram. And so when I multiply all this across, I get 3,600,000 micrograms all over 60,000 minutes. Well, I'm not interested in 60,000 minutes. So I'm going to divide both sides by 60,000. I get there's 60 micrograms in a minute. Right, so this guy's eating 60 micrograms per minute. Well, I hope all that helps. All right, that concludes today's episode. If you liked what you heard, be sure to click the subscribe and like button down below. And as always, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or if there's any particular topic you'd like me to create a video on, let me know in the comments down below. All right, well, I look forward to seeing you on my next podcast.